we doing tonight? Okie dokie. Alright, hi Steve. Glad that you can be here. Hi Desiree. Hi Mina. Hello Cockney girl. Hi Jeff. Hi Terry. So glad everybody can be here tonight. Okay, so we have kind of an unusual project. I know we've talked about this in the past live streams where we were going to create a wood burning of a bear face that was half realistic and half more simple. I have been working on this for a long time and it just wasn't working out. I was having a lot of hard times getting the two images to kind of match up. And honestly, it looked a little bit weird. It just didn't look very great. So I decided to go ahead and make a simple bear face and a realistic bear face on the same piece of wood. And to the patrons over on Patreon that support me, you have these patterns already. So you should be good to go as far as the patterns. Hi Beverly. Hi Lisa. Hi Tracy. Hi Marie. Welcome. Hi Rich. Hi Mellow Yellow. So glad that you guys can all be here tonight. So before we get started, I have one other kind of an announcement. Is our weekly Q&As that I've been doing for the last 6 weeks. I'm going to have to kind of postpone those for a little bit. With the summer season, there is so much that I'm trying to get done. And being at 9,000 feet elevation, I have a very limited warm season. So I'm trying to kind of cut back on some responsibilities so I can take care of things that I need to outside while it's summer. Because we have a very short time before the snow starts again. And then we will be snowed in for 6 to 7 months. So I'm deciding to kind of step back from those weekly Q&As to give myself just a little bit more time to take care of some other very important outside things. So I will probably pick those back up in the fall, but I don't think I'll do them weekly. I might either do them every other week or once a month. We'll see. But I just need to kind of step back a little bit for right now regarding that. So I want you guys to just be aware of that and understand. If you go to woodburninguniversity.com and look at the home page, I do have a schedule there, and it is listing just our upcoming live streams. I think I have to reschedule the 23rd live stream this month, but I might just push it back a day. So I want to make sure that I spend time with you guys each week to help you out. Hi Vicki. Hi Frank. Hi Dennis. Hey TH. Awesome. Well, I thank you guys very much for your understanding. I wish I could spend all kinds of time here teaching and showing you guys how to wood burn, but at the end of the day I am human and need to kind of spread my time out in other areas. Okay, so this piece of wood, come on, bear with me guys. Where'd it go? Nope, that's not it. Why is my camera not showing up? We changed everything last time because of... Sorry, I'm just trying to get this to show up here. What happened to my main screen? It should be here. Alright, let me see if I can copy and paste this. Sorry guys for the technical difficulties. We were doing all kinds of crazy things on the Q&A. Here we go. on Friday I was sharing my screen and everything, and it was just really crazy. Bouncing back and forth between screens, but don't worry, we'll get this figured out here. Okay. There, now we're back to normal. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay. Okay, so this piece of wood, as you can see by the shape of my hand or the size of my hand, is pretty big. It is roughly 12 inches tall and 16 inches wide. And I have our two bear faces here. I tried to get their expressions and everything to match as best that I could. And I think they're pretty similar, pretty close. Hi, Barbara. Hi, Chris. And we'll just see what we can do. I'll probably start with the simple bear tonight and see if we can get as far as we can. Honestly, they took about the same amount of time to transfer on, which I was kind of surprised about, but I'm going to leave this guy as is. I do have everything transferred on underneath. And I thought with this really unusual piece of wood, with it being so big, that I could probably sand off my little separation line in the middle, and then I could probably like put text at the top and bottom. My tape is wanting to kill my picture, so I'm gonna get scissors. Mina, what are the bears' names? That's a great idea. It's a great thought. I don't know, you guys come up with names for each bear. Is it the same bear? Is it two different bears? I don't know. What you guys think about it? Hi, Angela. Glad you can be here. We missed you on Wednesday. But we understand that you gotta work. Okay. So I'm just going to slide this over and we're going to adjust this down a tad. But you can see I have plenty of room at the top and bottom of my piece of wood that we could put like Burning Bears or Wood Burning University, home of the Burning Bears, or something fun like that, kind of like we've talked about. Hi, Sophie. Hello. You're very huff and puff. Oh, you guys can see her. There she is. She's in the corner. Hello, Sophie. You have such a sweet face. Alrighty. Desiree thinks that we should name the bears Franklin and Theodore. That sounds fun. Hi, Meta. Lisa says Bernie. Oh, we did talk about Bernie the bear. Bernie bear. That's pretty fun. You are steaming me up. Jeff, will the bear pattern be on my website? Yes, I will put these patterns up, both of them, on the Wood Burning University pattern store. They're not there yet because I just wanted patrons to kind of have a first chance at it, but I will be putting them on the website as well. Thanks, Barbara. I'm glad that you enjoyed the live stream on Wednesday. If you missed the earlier part of this live stream, I am going to kind of step back from those weekly Q&As at least until fall, and then I might just do like one every other week or one once a month, just because I'm running out of time. So yes, TH, thanks. Please like the video. So this very simple bear pattern is just two values. Really, we're only burning one value, and that's our darks. So you're going to want to pick a point that you can burn nice, crisp lines very easily. As you see, we do have some of these tapered points in here where it gets kind of skinny. So you want to make sure that you don't pick something really chunky like the flow point. I would try like maybe the mini flow point and block in the best you can, and then you can do those little flares or those little kind of pointy parts. You could do that with the normal shading point if you're working with the walnut hollow. And if you're working with the razor tip, there's a lot of different things you could use. I would probably, you could go with like a ballpoint shader for most of the lines and then finish it off with either, you know, a spear point or a shader point, anything that gives you that nice thin taper. Okay. Come on. Okay, so let's see what we can do here. I also do have, so I have 3 burners going right now for this project. I have the shading point, standard shader. I have our baby shader, also known as the Pro Point, and I have the mini flow point here. So we can kind of bounce around back and forth between those, and I can show you how to work with those. So we'll start with just the mini flow point for right now. I might do some work around the eyes. I like the eyes, and I tend to want to create those first. So one of the biggest tricks about this one is making sure that you are on the dark parts and not the light parts. Look how I'm like crazy washed out. It's kind of funny. Come on, light. Let's try that. So I don't look quite so alien. Okay. So in some of these areas the lines get a little bit complicated. So you'll want to really make sure that you stay in the right areas. So let's see what we can do here. We'll start with the eyes first. Now we have a nice highlight in the middle, so we'll burn around that. So again, just make sure you have really nice light pressure. Anytime you're working with something that can burn really hot, just really watch your amount of pressure. You don't want to press down really hard. Just kind of float along the surface of the wood. Now sometimes I'll kind of outline, whoa. I don't know what's going on with the focus on that webcam, guys. Sorry about that. It's a bit weird tonight. So sometimes I will block in some of these areas with a nice kind of outline and then try to stay within that area, because nothing is more frustrating than like burning in a block and then realize that you're burning the white area instead of the black area. So just really kind of keep an eye on where you're at. So what's everybody working on this week? Do you have any projects? Are you working in the yard? Are you planting a garden? Are you working on a wood burning or a drawing? We have some potatoes left over from last fall, and they've started to sprout. They have like big sprouts on them. They're trying to escape, so we went ahead and planted those in the ground. and hope they make it. At 9,000 feet, we kind of have a short growing season up here, but I also got like tomato plant and some spinach and some other things. I'm thinking of building a cold frame for them to keep them alive at night, because we're still down in like the mid 40s at night. So it's a little bit chippy for some of these delicate plants. And I usually kill more plants than I grow. So it'll be interesting this year to see if I can make anything. Or at least have it survive. Barbara says, reminds me of the time you did a zebra and a tiger on scratchboard. Yes, the line work looks very simple, but it can be a little tricky. Just making sure that you stay in the right area. Yeah. Terry says, could we please move the picture over a bit so you can see what section I'm working on? Absolutely. Let's go here. And I'll tuck this underneath, so hopefully, is that a little bit better? Terry, let me know. Tracy, when I burn with the Pro Point, do you still have it in the red or do you turn it down to the orange? The Pro Point burns really hot. So for something like this, I would probably still keep it in the max setting because I'm trying to hurry and I'm trying to go fast to block in these areas and just go a little bit quicker. So I would keep it on probably a high. But if you're working on anything that requires a little bit more time or is a little bit more delicate, then you will definitely want to turn that down. So I've kind of outlined a small section around the eye, and now I'm just going to kind of do a back and forth motion and start filling these in. Ooh, we have comments. Barbara is getting ready to start a wood burning entry for a September show. That is very cool. I usually, I've been trying to do some outdoor shows the past couple years. I think I'm going to take a break this year from the outdoor shows just to kind of spend some time getting back on my feet with everything. And I usually do one indoor holiday show, and I take my, I create painted jewelry. So I usually take those, but I don't know. I haven't decided if I'm going to do that this year or not. I'm just trying to kind of minimize this year. I don't know. We'll see. But very cool. Shows are very exciting. They can be a lot of work, but I find that they're very rewarding as well. So, Barbara, I hope that goes really well for you. Tracy, you're still house hunting. I hope that goes well. Desiree is working on a burning of a tiger in a bamboo forest. Cool. Barbara, the cold frame. Yes, I've been looking at a cold frame to keep my plants alive. And so we'll see. Maybe I can get that done this weekend. I really kind of messed up my knee and I'm moving a little bit slower than I would like, but such is life. Getting older, it's easier to hurt yourself. Not very funny, but what else can you do? So everybody's busy. This is great. Lisa is burning your last piece for about 2 months while you pack everything to move. Nice. I hope your move goes well. Meta is trying to work on the stained glass flower, but end up in the flower and veggie gardens and then you don't have energy to burn. Oh, I understand. I'm sure you're a much better gardener than I am. It's very fun though. Steve is working on the VFW tip box. You didn't make the box, you're just burning on it. Very cool. Cockney Girl is attempting a portrait of your puppy. Well, that's great. Pet portraits are a lot of fun. I think some of my most rewarding and meaningful pieces have been pet memorial pieces. It's just really, really cool to see people react and know that your work is appreciated and that you in some way made a difference in their life. So I think that's really cool. So even though the mini flow point has kind of the, oh, that's too big to turn over. Anyway, it has kind of a chunky aspect to it. You can still get some of these tapered points if you kind of do an upward flicking motion. So just kind of flick it up and lift as you burn. Then you don't get that big chunky end spot and you can get more of a tapered line. It can take a little bit of practice, but you can still get that kind of appearance with this point. And if you don't like the way your tapers turn out, you can switch over to something more pointy, like the shading point, and then you can kind of clean those up and make them taper just a little bit thinner if you want. And you can do that as you go, or you can come back and do that at the very end. It's totally up to you. But I find that the standard shading point doesn't burn quite dark enough, even on high, to get the dark values that I want. So I'll burn the big chunky dark areas first, and then if I want to go in and add some of those fine tapers, see we have some of these little lines here, that's where the shading point is better suited. Kind of like that. You can get those finer lines. Alrighty, Terry's working on some ballpoint pen drawings. Very cool. Mallow Yellow has a short growing season in Nova Scotia as well. Angela's trying to finish up all the projects you've started and never finished. That's great. Some wood burnings, drawing, and an acrylic painting. I have so many projects that I have started and not finished. Right there as well. Okay. Oh, Barbara, you got a couple of the, oh, you got some of the masks. Okay, cool. Yeah, I know the fires are really going crazy right now up north. Okay, so I'm going to bounce around here between different burners. I think I'm going to start using the Pro Point, the little shading point that I kind of ground down and made much smaller. So we'll work with this for a little bit. It definitely holds the heat better and you're able to move just a little bit faster with the dark values. You, since it does run hotter, you do run more of a risk of overburn, although it's more manageable, I think, than some of the other points that I've tried. Because it is smaller, it doesn't have the ability to create that ghosting effect quite so bad as like the shading point, because it's really big. Just try not to spend too much time in one spot, and that'll help with that overburn. Barbara, yeah, the mini flow point is a lot of fun. I use it for lettering and anything kind of tiny. Yeah, this, I've heard the smoke is really bad in a lot of areas. We had a little bit of it a few weeks ago, but for For the most part, our skies are clear, which is weird because most every summer we are inundated with smoke, either from local fires or fires in the west. So it's almost a little bit weird that we don't have smoke right now. Although I'm not complaining because it's very, very nice to have, to actually see. But we had a monster snow year, and after like a 25-year drought, all of our reservoirs are filled, which we haven't seen in probably over 10 years. So it's nice to actually have a little bit of water now. Okay, so this is where we have to kind of really be careful on what lines we're burning and to stay in the right zones. So if I go quiet for a little bit, I'm just trying to not mess up here, because multitasking and doing these is always kind of a little bit risky. Jeff is working on a realistic lion. Very cool. Yep, keep challenging yourself, Jeff. I think that's one of the best ways to learn and grow. Because even if it doesn't turn out the way that you hope or the way that you thought, you can usually learn so much in the process that the next project that you tackle is usually better. That's exactly what I did when I first started burning, is I just kept trying to find another more challenging subject just to see if I could do it and to see what I could learn out of it. And it's frustrating at times, but I always found that I learned so much at the end of it. Even if all you learn is just to push through and not quit, that's still a great learning experience. TH, any updates on when you can buy the Pro Point? I have not heard from them in like a month or more, so I don't know. It sounds like they're still in like the research and development stage or product development, whatever it is. They haven't given, I haven't seen any prototypes or anything to test out, so I think they're still kind of working on it. But man, if I could actually make these consistently, I would so get them out to you guys. But three-dimensional creation is really not my forte. I can make something, but then to make it again is a little bit more of a challenge. Of course, I'm not a machine, so. Hi, Cynthia. Mina, that's exactly right. Mina says, I have learned from my burning what not to do. Absolutely. I agree. I do the same thing. So just putting in some of these little, they almost look like little hash marks, just little lines in here. Okay, don't lose your place. Be a little overwhelming. So what I might do tonight, especially if we have time, I know we talked about the half and half project, so I might burn like half of this bear and then we'll jump over to the realistic one. So you guys kind of get the idea here. It's much easier for me to burn this way than this way, just because of me being right-handed, but don't be afraid to turn the wood if you need to get a better angle. Tracy, you've done a wood burning of your daughter's dog, and the lines are hard to follow. Absolutely. I agree. That's why I find that putting a finger there on your reference photo can really help. So Beverly, you say that you've sanded off about a third of the shading point and you love it. What a difference it made. You're not brave enough to make a pro point though. Yeah, it's like super itty bitty. It was a challenge to make. Just getting it, I find, like even on both sides so it's not like all wonky. You've got the post and then it's like lopsided. I made a lot of lopsided ones. But just getting it symmetrical and balanced is, I think, one of my bigger challenges. Hi Eric, glad you can be here. Yep, we are burning bears tonight. We're always burning bears, but tonight we're actually burning some bears. And I'm really not doing this in any methodical fashion. A lot of times I like outline the project first and then, you know, go for the eyes and take care of that. But I'm just kind of bouncing around here, so feel free to just kind of go with the flow on your project. So I have just kind of some outlining that I'm working on right now. And then we'll kind of block it in a little bit. Yeah, Mina, I'm thinking the simple bear is not so simple either. I mean, it's just two values. You've got darks and then you have the unburned wood, but it is a little bit more of a challenge to make sure that you stay in the right, like the right zone. So when I transferred it onto the wood, I'm thinking, yeah, this is maybe a little bit more or less simple than I thought. But you would think it'd be pretty simple. Just one value, no shading. But the lines are, I think, what makes it so complicated. And if you want, you can kind of like pre-shade some of these areas when you transfer the image on. That might work. Might help to kind of make sure you stay in the right area. It's like, I think I messed that one up. Oh well, that's okay. No one will know. You didn't see anything. We'll just make it up as we go. And that's the other thing. There's so many little lines here, so if you do mess up and burn one that you shouldn't, it's probably not the end of the world. And just kind of try to hide it. Alrighty. Somebody's very rustling in the kitchen.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Hi, Vivian. Where am I? Okay. I also find that like every time I look up at the chat, I kind of lose my place, which is easy to do. But that's okay. I'll figure it out. But yeah, I really tried to like put these two images together, but I think like one's head was looking up more than the other one because I couldn't get things to line up. Like the ears were not quite the same, and then you put the face together and like one eye is higher than the nose, and anyway, it just didn't work. So I thought we'll just split it into two projects and make it a little bit more simple. But I can still just burn half of this one and half of that one. That would be fine too. We'll just kind of cruise along here. See what we can do. So do you guys have any questions as far as what we're trying to create here or anything? Let me know. That's a very good point, Desiree. Desiree says that I find on pictures like this, you have to put cheat marks in the dark areas to keep me on track. Otherwise, you mess up. Absolutely, and that is a very good thought. Let me see. I think I have a pencil here. So, if you're not sure what Desiree means, sometimes people will come through, and like anytime there's a dark section, they'll like put an X or something in those areas to kind of keep track of the dark zones versus the light zones. Sometimes people will even kind of like take a pencil and block them in a little bit, kind of like this. I've not really had a problem burning over graphite, but keep in mind that anytime you burn over anything, it could excuse me, it could cause a sensitivity, so you would want to keep that in mind as well. Like see here on the nose, we could put X's on the areas that are dark, and sometimes that kind of helps as well. Yep, Desiree, I've seen that as well. So either way, whatever works well for you. I just kind of like really be careful, or try to be careful, because sometimes I burn the wrong area and then I just try to hide it. So Tracy, how long did it take me to trace out each one? Each project is like 7.5 wide by maybe 9 inches tall. I don't know, I didn't look, but I think I sat down and did both of them, and it maybe took me 2 hours. So maybe an hour each. That seems like a long time, but maybe less than an hour a piece. But it did take me longer to transfer this one than I thought it would. I thought it would go faster. But anyway, I had to keep track of that. I used to keep track of how long it would take me to transfer on images, because that would kind of give me an idea of how long it would take me to burn. there is a direct correlation, I think, in the amount of transfer time versus the amount of burn time. Now, that's not always true consistently because even though it took me the same amount of time to transfer both images on, I have a feeling that this one will burn so much faster than the realistic one because we don't have to worry about values or textures or anything like that. So we can just kind of go to town on burning this one. So, but good question. Dennis is asking, for a beginner, what do you suggest they burn first? A flower, fish, tree, dog? What do you think? Based on those options, a tree, if it's just a silhouette, would be probably the easiest. Second would be the flower, because you have a simple shape with a little bit of shading. Next would, between the fish and the dog, that would be, it would depend on the fish and the dog. Anytime you would burn fur, it can be a little bit more of a challenge to burn the fur. Fish also share kind of a similar challenge depending on like the amount of scales and texture on the fish, especially if your scales are negative space, which means you have to burn around little tiny highlights of the scales. A fish or a dog, that would be a toss-up. I would start with maybe a tree silhouette and then move to a flower and then see which one you would want to tackle, either the fish or the dog. But if you're not talking about a tree silhouette, trees can be pretty complicated to burn too. I hope that helps, Dennis. So Lisa had to tell a coworker about, oh, you had to tell a coworker about me this week. Oh, wow. Thank you. Oh, she has a laser machine. She wanted to know what she could put wood to stop color from soaking in. Well, I would imagine that if you created an image with a laser and then clear coated it, not really clear coated it, but treated it with a clear gesso, then you could apply color to your laser wood burnings and then the color wouldn't soak in. So that might work the same way that we add color. Steve, do I have any snow left? A little bit in the shadows, kind of in the trees on the north facing slopes. We have a little bit of snow left, but most all the snow is finally gone, which is great because it could start snowing again in 4 months. So, summers are short, but we've had snow, like snowstorms that dropped a foot or 6 inches of snow. We had one at the end of June. We had one at the beginning of July. We had one in August. We had one in September. So we could get snow any month of the year up here. It's kind of rare, but it is possible. So we're counting the weekends. We have like a countdown on the wall until the 1st of November, because after the 1st of November, there's really no guarantee for nice weather. Vivian is asking, when you calculate what you are going to charge for a piece, do you also count any time you spend on Photoshop? Not usually, but you probably should. That is a very good point. I would try to include all of your time on a project, including some of the planning. Now, I don't know that I would charge as much for planning as I would for wood burning, because wood burning is more of a kind of a specialty skill. I don't know. That's a very good point, though. I should, but I don't usually. Maybe I should change that. So we're just kind of cruising along here with these dark sections. I miss. Dennis, your daughter wants you to teach her how to wood burn. Awesome. My daughter does too. Cool, guys. Yeah, a lot of times there's snow in Yellowstone in July. I got married in the first part of June, and we went up to Canada on our honeymoon. And as we went through Yellowstone, everything was so snowy still. And then we got up to Canada, and it was snowy up there too. So maybe not the best time to go to Canada in early June, but we enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Thanks, TH. Let's see. Our anniversary, we just celebrated our 21st anniversary, which is like crazy and very cool. It was funny when we went on our honeymoon in early June. It was so snowy and cold where we were up in Canada, and our hometown here was actually literally on fire. They had a bad wildfire of a natural cause and just about took out one of the biggest tourist towns here in Colorado. Took out quite a few homes, unfortunately, and just crazy. So we kind of, my husband was a state trooper at the time, and we were hearing a lot of the conversations from his co-workers about how bad it was here. But we actually had a really nice and enjoyable time and just kind of chilled out up in Canada because it was like raining every single day that we were up there. We were like parking lots were underwater, and we're hearing that, you know, our hometown is on fire. It was really crazy. But we have a lot of natural coal seams in our mountains here, and a long time ago they used to mine that coal. And one time there was an explosion in one of the mines, the coal mines, and I think my grandfather actually worked in those mines. But anyway, the explosion caught the coal seam on fire, and this has been decades ago. and the coal seams are still on fire to this day. They have tried everything and they can't put them out, and of course they can't mine anymore because it's no longer safe. So we have in our area just these mountain ranges that are just smoldering inside. Like in the wintertime they'll be smoking, and there'll be snow everywhere but a certain spot, and it's in the wintertime and there's grass. It's really wild, because when the coal seams get close to the surface, it superheats the ground and it can spontaneously combust the grass and stuff on top, and that is what started that really bad fire. Was just the coal seam got too hot at the surface and ignited the weeds, and then off it went. So kind of weird and crazy, but like one of our nearby towns has Burning Mountain Days as their fair days, because the mountains all around them are on fire inside. Just crazy, crazy, crazy. But living here is something you don't even think about. The mountains are all on fire from inside. It's pretty crazy. Thanks, guys. Ah, Tracy, you've got one like that in Pennsylvania too. Been burning underground for decades. Yep. And that's another thing, they don't let you walk around in those mountains because you could just like fall through where the coal seam burns and then leaves a cavity. And then you could just be walking along and fall into a burning abyss. So they really don't let you walk around there. Probably not a good thing. Because the ground can be super thin in areas. It's almost like Yellowstone, you know, walking around and fall into something too hot. Not good. So I'm going to burn for just a couple more minutes here on this guy. He's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Well, simple with an asterisk. He's not as complicated as the realistic guy, but just make sure you stay in the right section and you'll be okay. Vivian, ooh, sinkholes in Florida. That would be scary. Fortunately, we're kind of a long ways, not a long ways, but we're quite a ways from the internal fires of the mountain. They really don't let people, like, live in those areas, so. Thanks, Barbara. Thanks for all the anniversary wishes, guys. I really appreciate it. 20 was a big milestone. Pretty cool. 21, it's, you know, still cool too. So I do kind of notice a little bit of difference in value between using the Pro Point and the mini flow point. I'm not sure if I can kind of show that to you guys here very well, but you might notice because I am working faster, the Pro Point seems to be more of a really, really dark brown, whereas the area around the eye that I created is a little bit more of a true black. Because I am just trying to expedite, hi Monte, because I am just trying to expedite this project, I'm not too concerned about it not being a super, super dark black. But you can go back if you want and work more slowly. Like I said, I'm really going fast here. You can go slower or burn over it again if it really bothers you. It's up to you, but just trying to hurry. So we're not at this all night long. But I do like this, the Pro Point, because I still can get some of those thinner lines and the more tapered appearance to it. Terry, you had a massive sinkhole open up. Wow. Yeah, those sinkholes are pretty crazy. Not too far from where I live, there's a lot of limestone, and I think there's a lot of limestone where I live. And I remember we would be out snowmobiling, and all of a sudden there'd just be these huge holes or caverns as we're just driving along, and we actually had to start marking them so nobody'd fall into them. And we went back in the summertime, and it turns out it was a giant sinkhole because the limestone was dissolved. Pretty cool. I remember one winter we were trying to find the bottom of this big hole, and you know, it's just a big hole and you can see down in there, but we were wondering how far it went down. So I was a teenager, and my brother, he's just a couple years older than me, and so I kind of shimmied towards the edge of this big hole, and I had a rope, like a little saw on a rope, and I was going to put it down there to see how far down it would go. Fortunately, I had my brother hold onto my feet as I was leaning over, because the whole edge of the sinkhole, the snow all caved in and collapsed, and I would have gone head first into this really deep cavern if my brother hadn't been holding my feet. Fortunately, I was pretty tiny, and he was able to pull me back. But we went back in the summertime to that same spot and lowered, I think, like 30 feet of rope into this hole and didn't find the bottom. So we do have a few sinkhole kind of things up here too. It's crazy though. Well, we have Glenwood Caverns Adventure Park, the Fairy Caves. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Fairy Caves in Glenwood Springs. That's like 30 minutes from where I'm at. And they have really, really cool caverns that are a lot of fun to go take the tour and explore. So if you're ever in the Glenwood Springs area, make sure you stop in and check out the Fairy Caves. I've been there a couple times, and it's always really neat. I don't do the tiny, they have like the general family tour where you go and you go in these big caverns, and then they also have like the spelunking tour where they have to like measure you to make sure you'll fit in these tiny little holes. I don't think I would do that one. I don't really think I would do well in the tiny spots. I don't know about you guys. Would you go in these crazy tight, skinny little rock places? I don't think I would. There's no room for error, man. You eat one too many French fries and you're stuck. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't fall in the sinkhole, guys. That was a bit scary. Hi, Feel the Rat. Yep, we're working on bears tonight. Yeah, Meta. I mean, my parents were right there watching me and my brother feed this stuff down into the hole. And I was the smallest one in the family, so I was the obvious choice to try that. But we made it. We were fine. My dad and I actually were riding a snowmobile together. I was like 11, and we actually drove into one of the sinkholes on a snowmobile. Amazingly, we didn't get hurt. Some other people had gone in that and like broke both their wrists and broke their leg, and not very cool, but we were okay when we went into it. Wow, we're talking like about caves and sinkholes and all kinds of crazy stuff tonight. I think it makes the time go faster though. Alrighty, Terry, you guys, nope, everybody's saying nope, not going in the tiny caves. If I were younger, I would do it probably, but not anymore. I'm good. No tiny spaces. They don't really bother me, but I don't think the rock walls would be very happy. I would be very happy with the rock walls. Okay, Vivian. Oh, that's a great idea. We need to wood burn a cave. I should wood burn the fairy caves. They have this amazing, really, really cool like gallery room or something that's really neat. That would be cool. I've always wanted to do that. I remember getting pictures down in there and I thought, oh, this would be a cool wood burning. I forgot about that. That'd be awesome. Okay, so we have Burn E Bear simplified version, and now we have Burn E Bear complicated version. So let me move this over here, guys. Me. I'm gonna move me. Oh, Rich, a cave with a bear coming out. What if we did a cave bear coming out of a cave? They're long gone, but I bet we could just like take a grizzly and make him bigger. That'd be cool. Tracy, you wouldn't want to go in a cave either. Gotcha. Alrighty, so this reference photo is a little bit lighter than the one that I intend to burn. Sorry, I have notes on this one. Okay, so this is actually more the values that I want in this burning over here, but keep in mind that when you print images out, a lot of times your printer kind of like oversaturates it or makes it darker. So generally when I go to print out a reference photo, I will kind of tweak it in Photoshop and I'll make those values much, much lighter because they'll show up with the printer. I mean, you can see this area right here. I love the values within the bear, but this area is completely lost. So right here I made the whole image a little bit lighter so I can get these details in there, and then I can manually adjust how dark I burn this. Otherwise I just kind of have to guess and the whole thing becomes a blob. I like to be able to see into the shadows personally and want that information. So this is the one that I transferred on. He looks a little bit surprised, like his eyes are really big, and I plan on kind of shading at the top to make him look a little bit more grumpy. He looks like a little bit surprised, which is kind of funny. But anyway, I just want you to know that I do plan on adjusting the values a little bit. So if you need to print out a couple different versions of your reference photo, that's totally okay. I do it all the time. I'll print a light one, a dark one. You can also pull up something digitally and have it on your screen and kind of mess with the values, and that works just fine too. Okay, so I went ahead and transferred this on, and now you might notice that these guidelines, you can't even hardly see them, whereas these are much darker. I was pressing harder on these because it doesn't matter, they're just going to be solid dark. But on this one I went with a much lighter pressure because I don't want to see all my guidelines on a realistic image when I'm done. So if you do get some of your guidelines a little bit darker than you'd like, just hit it with some sandpaper and that can kind of lighten it up a little bit. I did go a little bit darker, as you can see, around the edges because Burn E Bear version 2.0 is a little bit, he's got a black background on there. I don't have to put that in, but even if you don't have a black background, sometimes I find that you need to create some sort of depth between the light bear and the light basswood background, so you might want to burn that area. It's just a little bit darker anyway. So Don't worry about it being a little dark there. It'll be fine. Okay, so we're an hour in and we're halfway there, and we'll just keep going here. So just want to make sure you guys can see what we need to see. I'm going to pull that up just a little bit. I'm going to be really focused on the eyes, so let me see if I can zoom in a tad without making you woozy. Okay. Alrighty then. Very cool, guys. Barbara, that's really cool. A cave bear with a cave bear painting behind it on the cave wall. That would be so cool. Reminds me of the Clan of the Cave Bear series, the books. I love those books. If you've never read the Clan of the Cave Bear series, it's amazing. It's set at the time of like, 10,000 BC or something. Long time ago. Very, very cool books. I've read them like 5 times. There's 6 books in the series. Each one's like that big. Anymore, I listen to them on like book on tape. But good books. Okay. Yeah, definitely lighten it up for the details as needed. Or darken it. Sometimes, like with white subjects, like an owl or a white wolf, sometimes your values are just blown completely out, and you need to darken up those areas a little bit to kind of be able to see more information. Okay. I have a little bit of light coming in, the blinds kind of blinding me, so if I look a little weird, it's because I have sunlight in my eyes. So, oh, I'm using the shader point because I like it for some of this really fine line work and this fine detail work. This is what I've used forever. I'm just really more comfortable with it. So I'm not creating this in one continuous motion. I am kind of very carefully working on that curvature a little bit at a time. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more for these eyes because there's such tiny details that I'm working on that I feel it would be better, if I can find the tape, that it would be better if you guys could see closer up. Mellow Yellow, you like those books too? Awesome. Okay. Let me see here. We're going to put this. Alrighty, let's zoom in a tad. Anytime there's realistic work, I like to really kind of zoom in. And this is a pretty big project, so there we go. How's that? Does that look good, guys? So you can see more of what we got going on. Okay. Now, I did kind of make a couple mistakes here when I was transferring on around the eye. And I made that a little bit of a waver. One thing that you got to make sure that when you're wood burning eyes is they've got to be round. If you make a mistake and you have a little whoop-de-doo and you waver it, you got to make sure that you fix it when you would burn it. Nice, even. And then you can kind of step back. See, mine is not quite round. So you can go back and kind of fix that as you go. Hi, Jeff. Sorry, yes, I am from Colorado, Jeff. I'm trying to make sure I get everybody in the chat, but if I miss somebody, I do apologize. You guys, looks better? Okay. Vivian, I don't think it looks pretty clear on my end. You might take a look at your settings on YouTube, because sometimes the settings can be a little bit wonky. I think you click click on the video and click on the gear tab and you can change the resolution, I think. My head's not in there, right? Okay. I'm just burning along and all you guys can see is the back of my head. That's always fun. So we do have like some lines in here. We got to really make sure that we capture. It's easy to kind of get off on some of these line after line after line. So take your time on this. Generally, I just really focus on the darkest values first and try to get those in place. That's kind of like my foundation, or my, yeah, like the foundation, like of a house, you have to have a good foundation, and I find that the dark values are that foundation for your project. Without those, it's, you know, everything else is kind of a little bit shaky, because I think everything reacts to the darkest values of the project and gives it that foundation for the whole project. All of your midtones going up from the darks have to be right, and I think that the dark values set that. Whew. Terry, yeah, it's the light and the sunlight that's kind of messing with me here. I hope everything is in focus. Okay. Eric says, very exciting times for everybody in Colorado sports right now. First Coach Prime, now the Nuggets playing for the championship. That's awesome. I'm not a big follower of basketball, but that's really cool. Thanks. I didn't know that. We don't have TV, so we don't get all the news and all that. That's very cool. So, more lines. He looks like he has not slept for a while. He's got bags under his eyes. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of first strokes underneath this last little baggy eye area. Okay, now let's make him look a little bit more natural by adding some shading. So we're going to burn around this highlight, and I'm just going to kind of blow on the point a little bit to cool it down. Yeah, Desiree, this poor bear has had a long winter. He's not slept very well. Or maybe he slept too much over the winter. Now, a lot of times with eyes, you'll see I just put in like a general mid-tone value, but eyes generally have a gradient aspect to them where they'll be darker at the top and then get a little bit lighter towards the bottom. So we'll go ahead and put that in, add it darker at the top, blend it down towards the bottom a little bit, and that creates much more of a realistic eye. A lot of times you'll also see a little bit of a darkness on the bottom edge where it kind of creates that rounded appearance. So those are two places that you really want to match that gradient. Dark from the top, getting lighter towards the bottom, and then at the very bottom of the eye, in fact all the way around the eye, you're going to have a gradient pulling in slightly. where it's darker at the edge right here, and then it gets a little bit lighter as it comes in towards the center of the eye. Not always, but that's a good place to start for realistic eyes. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow kind of under this initial, it looks almost like a water line, like the bear's looking up and you've got that little glistening light spot under the eye. Kind of like that. And I'm going to soften this one a little bit down here. And then to kind of complete the eye, I like to burn around it and give it some structure. So the eyes don't look like two little burnt holes in a blanket. They kind of tie in more to their surroundings a little bit. So now we're just working on fur strokes, back and forth motions. Make sure that you match that gradual set the burner on the wood and lift it off just like an airplane is landing and taking off, so you don't get those stop spots on either end. And if you're new and don't know what stop spots are, I don't even know. I have a piece of wood here, I put them all away. Not the best example because there's color. I'll not burn the color, but stop spots, you set the burner down, you travel, and then you lift, and you get those stop spots on either end. So make sure gentle transition onto the wood and off of the wood, and that'll take care of those stop spots. Thanks, TH. Where'd my thingy go? Oh, found it. So we'll just go ahead and tie in some fur strokes here. And then the eye will look like it belongs where it's at. A little bit better. Let me see. So I find that once we kind of get that blocked in and started, then we can take a look at our second reference and have it close by so that we can adjust our values a little bit. So now I'm going to be kind of just taking a look at this one and darkening things up a little bit, making sure that I match the values that I really want that are a little bit darker. Just move your burner a little bit slower to catch those darker values. And remember when you're burning fur to burn in layers. So if you start out by just a nice light sketch of the general flow of the fur, and then you can go back and keep building up those layers as you go. That's totally fine, and I do that a lot. And by darkening up this area above the eye, that'll make him look a little bit more serious and not so surprised. Okay, I'm going to make a couple adjustments here to the eye. Okay, so normally like black bears and grizzly bears, their eyes are very kind of like beady. You don't see a whole lot of value in there. They're usually pretty dark with just a nice little glistening at the top. Now you might see that I kind of burned this water line a little bit much on here, and in that case, if you have a really nice X-Acto knife or a sharp pokey thing, you can kind of clean those up. If I can find mine. Haha! I found it. So normally I don't advocate scratching the wood, but sometimes it's not really, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. So you can kind of come in here and bring out some of those highlights again if you did what I did and I was working a little bit fast and lost that nice highlight. So you can go back and gently scratch that and lift that back out. Kind of like that. So one of the keys to realistic eyes, I think, are those wet spots, the highlight of the eye, the highlight of the water line. And you'll notice sometimes that water line underneath the eye is not continuous. It can be like broken up into little spots. I can show you how to do that really quick. You can actually kind of like block it off and create a couple little spots like that. That's fine too. It doesn't have to be continuous. So if you find like this big swoopy line here looks a little bit maybe unnatural, you can break it up a little bit and just have a few of those little parts glistening. I do feel like we need to add a tiny bit of shading at the top of that water line to kind of blend it a little bit better. But anyway, and then you can always go back and darken up the values a little bit more in certain areas to really make everything pop and get those values that you want. So I find that burning and reburning an area can really pay off in the long run to make sure that you get everything the way that you want it. But since we are just kind of working half and half here, I'll just kind of continue and spread out from here, and I won't jump over to the other half of the bear right now. Okay. One of the next things I like to do is usually focus on the other main features. So let's jump over to the nose and get that in, and then we can kind of just stay in this general area. Thanks, TH. Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, the eyes, I really like to get, you know, both of them in there, but I know we're a little bit on the clock here. Whoa. So we'll just keep moving forward. And don't be afraid to fold up your reference photo, because I do that all the time. Okay, so noses are pretty cool and pretty fun. Sometimes I think a lot of people get intimidated by noses, but you got to remember that they're just abstract shapes. You guys want me to do the other eye? Let me know. Do you want to go for the eye, the other eye, or the nose? You guys let me know what you want. You guys can just shout out, eye, nose. Which way you want me to go? TH says eye. Mina says nose. Eye, then nose, says Terry. Okay, we got 2 eyes, 1 nose. 2 eyes, 2 nose. Eyes, then nose. 3 eyes. Okay. We're like tied here, guys. Okay. It's a Cyclops. Okay, all right, fine. We'll keep it balanced and we'll go for both eyes. How's that? Hi, Larry. All right, we'll try to burn this other eye a little bit more quickly. Sorry, I'm not sure what's going on with my camera. It's a little twisty. It's going the wrong way. Come on. There we are. Okay. We'll try to make this other eye happen and balance him out, and then we'll work on the nose. We should be able to get to both eyes and nose tonight. Okay. I'll try to burn more and talk less. As long as they keep burning, I can talk, I guess. So same thing as the other one, start with your outlines, start with your basic shapes, make sure that your eyes are as round as you can get them. Sometimes that takes a little bit of tweaking and adjusting. I generally start out a little bit lighter than my final value will be. It just gives me a little bit of leeway in case I need to make any adjustments. So we have a multi-tiered droopy eye look going on here. And then since I like to work dark to light, I'm going to add in some of the darker areas around the eye. Now again, this eye is like, he's really kind of surprised, and we'll tone that down here in a bit. And you can go back and darken up areas as you get everything more perfected and in place. Just really try to match the direction of the fur as you go around the eyes. That just really helps with the realism. Okay. Whew, that looks kind of creepy. But we'll fix it here. Okay, so we're gonna go around this highlight. I think that works. And then a general light shading on the eye. I'm going to make it just a little bit more of a gradient around the outer edge. I'm going to leave a little bit of unburned wood kind of within the eye for a little bit of a reflective light. And then we're going to take the top darkness and pull it down, making sure to cover that little edge so it blends in a little bit more naturally. So eyes, when you break them down, are actually quite simple. Make sure they're round, or if they're looking to the side, make sure the curves are correct, and then get your darks dark enough, gradient from the top down, make sure you burn around your highlight, leave a little water line underneath, especially if that area is in light. You might notice that the light source is coming from this side on the bear, so this whole eye is going to be a little bit darker in general because it's more in shadow. That's something that you can kind of adjust as you go. But be mindful of your light source when burning eyes. Like owls, owls are crazy because their eyes will dilate differently in different light. So if you have a strong light source on one side, that pupil, right, the center of the eye, I'm not a scientist, the center dark part of your eye is going to be slightly smaller than the shadow side of the owl. The owl's eye on the shadow side will be a little bit bigger. It's kind of trippy and it looks like you messed up. That's actually how owls, they dilate their eyes differently due to light, where I think ours are usually tied together, generally. Steve, yes, I do usually start with the eyes because I find that the eyes, they carry the entire emotion and you could say a soul of your subject. And if for whatever reason you're just off that day and you can't match the eye properly, if the eyes don't turn out, I find it's easier to scrap the project, sand it, whatever you have to do to start over or fix it, and just start over. I think I've had to do that one time on a portrait and it just wasn't working out. The type of wood that I picked had some bad spots in it. And I was struggling and I just could not get the eyes to work out. And so I scrapped the whole project. I got a new piece of wood. I retransferred the whole thing on and it turned out to be really great. I actually put that was one of my first YouTube videos that I filmed. And I think that may have been part of it too, is I was trying to wood burn with the camera and I couldn't quite get close enough because I usually operate really close. I've learned to wood burn farther away to adjust for the camera, but I just really struggled with that one, and I had to just completely scrap it. And I used it for firewood because I couldn't save it. So if you get the eyes done and you get the emotion in those eyes, then I think the rest of the project usually goes much, much easier. All right, so there we have a couple matching eyes. That one went much faster than the other one. We can adjust those a little bit, but now he's not a Cyclops. So, all right, to the nose. The nose. Another weird thing, I have to make sure that I'm not burning like this. Looking at my reference photo, I have to make them even. Okay. Alrighty. Mina, yes, the eyes are the window of the soul, definitely. Okay, now we can move on. For those OCD people like me, we have both eyes in place. All right, to the nose. Now, noses are very abstract. And what I mean by that is look at it as an abstract shape. Break what you see down into just lumpy blobs. Make sure your lumpy blob matches the lumpy blob over here, match the right value and the texture, and you're pretty much good to go. So I'm looking at the darkest values first, and I want to make sure that I keep really soft edges in this nose. If you remember the difference between soft edges and hard edges, I need a piece of wood. Sophie, move. 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 Move your butt. Oof. Haha. This one's been used a lot, but we can still show soft edges versus hard edges. So when you're using the shading point, a lot of other points are the same way. If you rock them up, you can get a really fine, sharp edge, a very hard edge. If you rock the point down, you can get a very soft edge. Now, we're going to focus on this little blob here. The difference between soft edges and hard edges, especially when we're dealing with noses, is that hard edge is going to create, if I get the light just right, an indentation. And it's going to be very difficult to blend that out. because we've indented the wood. You can't, I mean, you'd have to like indent all the wood and it just wouldn't work. So make sure you have a minimal pressure and don't dent the wood when we're dealing with areas like this. Why? Because if you look at this nose, there's no sharp corners. The inside of the nose gently flares out to the outside of the nose. It's like a continuous, gentle folding of the nose. So we want to match that. Anytime you see really dark values, try to resist putting in a really hard edge, because generally you do want some sort of a blended effect to that. So no hard edges on the nose. Try to keep as soft as an edge as you possibly can given your point that you're using. Because everything is going to be soft and squishy and folded and blended. I mean, you could just like squeeze his nose. It looks so soft. I don't think that would be a good idea. Walk up to a bear and squeeze their nose. I don't think that they would take, I don't think they would appreciate that. Might be the last thing you do. So same thing on this other side. Try to get soft edges all the way around. I'm not going to get a solid black in the first pass, because operating with a soft edge, you're going to have a flatter angle, which means you're more prone to overburn. So take some time to build up these dark values. Don't spend too much time burning the dark, because I usually get a lot of overburn and ghosting on noses, especially when I first started. So just think of layers. Then we have this little triangular piece in the middle. It's also quite dark. Soft edges all the way around. Vivian, you're welcome for the second eye. I think that helps. He looks like a piggy right now, but we'll fix that too. Yeah, Tracy, I don't think the Burn-E bear would like to honk his nose. So just a real light value around the bottom part of the nose, almost more for my sake, just to kind of build up those values. So a tiny dark spot up there. Now it looks like he has a face. It's a sloth, guys. Doesn't his nose look like a sloth? Sorry. We'll never unsee it now. He'll always have a sloth nose. Okay, so we do have a dark patch here, the shadow side, but if you look on the underside, there's actually a little bit of a light spot. So there's some reflected light going on there. We'll just do the best we can here. Sorry, I love values and I love the play of light on these things, and I like to see highlights where you normally wouldn't see them. I think it's pretty fascinating. I think it's pretty cool. That reflected light. I remember when my dad taught me about reflected light a long time ago, and I thought it was just super cool. Now it's a sloth with a beard. Okay, so I'm going to go back now that this is cooled down, and I'm going to kind of darken up the nostril. And make a second pass. It might take 3 passes to get these these nostrils dark enough. Terry, bear noses are so different from a dog's. Yes, more punched in on the bottom. Yeah, they're different for sure. Alrighty. So I'm going to take a moment, guys, to sand this top edge. I transferred it on just a little bit darker than I should. So I'm just going to lighten that up a tad. Punched in, yes, Terry, absolutely. All right, so really, really light, soft edge at the top. Okay, I'm going to darken the center section a little bit more. Sophie! Okay, we're going to kind of work on some of the mid values as the nose starts to... So I'm just blowing on the point a little bit to make it a little bit more controlled so that the burner doesn't get too hot. Keep in mind, guys, if you work on something really abstract like this for a long time and you just keep staring at it, sometimes your eyes go a little bit weird and it's like, I don't know what I'm looking at anymore, and it looks really weird. And it's like, I don't know if you've ever worked with different fonts and you're trying to find the best font for a word, say like, you know, wood burning. And you have wood burning and it's in different fonts and you keep looking at it in different font, different font, different font. And all of a sudden it's like that word that you've always known and recognized, it no longer looks the same. It's, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that, but if you look at something for too long, it doesn't look like it normally does. It's a little bit weird. So if you find yourself really struggling with like the nose or anything like that, and it no longer looks like a nose, jump around to a different part of the project. Give your mind a break. You guys know that. Okay, I'm not crazy. Yay! Because I'll look at fonts like all the time and trying to find the best font, and it's like, okay, my word no longer looks like a word. I don't know what it is, but it's weird. Good night, Eric. Have a great night. Thanks so much for being here tonight. And I just have to take a break after a while because I don't know if this font looks good because the word doesn't even look like a word anymore. All right, glad to know that some people out there get that. But the same thing goes for wood burning. If you're wood burning a certain, like a mouth or teeth or a nose, and it just kind of like morphs into something that you don't really recognize anymore. Sometimes it's good to just step back, take a break, and give your mind something else to look at. I think that can be a lot of our frustration when we're working on a project, is that we don't give our brain time to kind of take a break. Okay, so remember, lights pull forward, darks push backwards. So to get that shiny tip on the nose right there, we're going to make sure to leave that shiny tip up front and then burn some darker values towards the back. Darks push back, lights pull forward. And once we blend the nose into its surrounding, it will also look better, just like the eyes. Now I don't have a lot of texture in the nose yet, but we can add that in as well. Alrighty, that looks pretty wonky. TH, that's why you move around on wood burnings. Absolutely. Vivian, once in a while you need to go get away and look at something else. Yep, I agree. Yeah, bears can smell food a very long ways away, which is kind of scary if you're having a barbecue. It's amazing that I think they say that bear noses are more keyed in and more sensitive than dog noses, I think I've heard. So I'm going to add some of these cute little whiskers under the nose and above the mouth. I think creating a dark value underneath that nose, we're going to try and tie the nose into its surroundings so it doesn't look so odd. And this is that ugly duckling stage, guys. Whew. Where you've put in a lot of time, the eyes are looking really good, and now we're working on the nose, and it's like, oi, this nose is looking wonky. But I think it just looks wonky because we're not done yet. So we're going to tie it into its surroundings. And we're not going to quit. This would be a great time to quit. I know pretty much everybody has experienced this as well. It's like, oh, I put so much time into this and it's not working out. I want to quit. But we're not going to quit. We're going to keep on going here. And just trust the process. Trust that if we continue to match the values and the texture, that it'll all turn out. It'll be just fine. She says as she's burning live. That's always fun. It'll be fine. It'll work out. Oh, some of these are just funny. TH, the end result is it worth it? Yeah, I agree. Barbara, I'm just gonna keep going. I've had projects that we've burned live that turned out better than others. Some not as good as I had hoped, but we're not gonna quit. We're just gonna keep going, and we'll figure it out. And layers, guys, layers are so helpful. Absolutely, Barbara. This is just like an underpainting with a burner. I've done that and taught that for a very long time. Sometimes you have to create like an underburning, an underpainting, I call it an underburning, of a project. It's just the base foundation that you have to build off of. And I have burned a lot of noses. That sounds really bad. I have made wood burnings of a lot of noses over the years, and they're always a little bit sketchy, I think, when you're in them, when you're trying to create that illusion. It's a little bit kind of intimidating, whether it's people noses, dog noses, whatever. That looks kind of funny. Okay, but let's keep going. I'm going to add a little bit more, another layer down here towards the bottom. Lighter values. Rich, you are so bad. They can smell pyrography live streams from miles away. All right, Rich. Turkey. Thanks. Because I'm like hearing noises outside. I think it's the dog. I don't know. It's probably that bear coming to let me squeeze his nose right before he eats me. That'd be so bad. That's so bad. Okay, back to the instructional part of the live stream and not the horror part of the live stream. Alrighty, we're adding some layers here. We're gonna blend this thing out. Create more structure. around the nose. We do have fun, guys. Oh dear. Yeah, Tracy, you've had issues with wood burning. I mean, whether it's wood burning or drawing or painting, it's like every single project, it seems like there's always some time where you just are a little bit frustrated. So I'm going to put in just this nice little light hint of a rounded nose. Now, another thing that I found that is helpful for especially dog noses, sometimes bear noses can be very similar, is if you have almost like a pointillism, not a consistent dot, 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 but I like to create kind of a dot and slide motion. Let me see if I can find a spot that doesn't have paint on it. Like instead of just dot, dot, dot for the nose, sometimes that's a bit repetitive. Once you get some value in there, you can do that a little bit, but I find a dot and slide like that. Hopefully you can see that, but a dot and slide motion tends to work pretty well. And then you can kind of add in some pointillism as well. Thanks, Barbara. Yep, we love Friday night live streams and the Minisa squad. You guys rock. Everybody, thank you very much. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so now we're going to put in starting some more texture. Our values are not quite dark enough, but I'm going to kind of do that gentle dot and slide motion. It's about like stippling. And you can actually put in some stippling gently. Just don't indent the wood to give it a little bit more texture. I'm going to try to finish this nose really quick, guys, before we're done. But a little more texture, a little more shading, a little more blending, and I think we'll get there. At least try to make it kind of tied in before we're done. But we will do the same thing next week. I'll leave it up to you guys whether you want me to kind of finish up, you want me to spend more time on the simple bear, or do we want to just kind of switch over and spend more time on the realistic bear? You guys can let me know on that so I can plan for next week as far as what you'd like. The simplistic bear is basically one value, which is dark black, the value 5. And just make sure you stay in your lines, and we can kind of work a little bit on both. I'm going to kind of try and blend this edge out here really quick. We could split the time half and half. So just kind of whatever you guys want to do. So now I'm going to add more shading over the top of our texture. So noses, I find, are a lot of times just a nice balance between texture and shading. Texture and shading, texture and shading. You can kind of keep layering those back and forth and try to get the right combination of texture and shading. I'm going to darken up the nose a little bit. Larry says the simple one. Terry says, can we work on both again? Yep. Barbara, work on both. Vivian, both. TH agrees with Terry, both. Both is great. Okay, that's totally fine. So we'll spend like an hour on the simple bear, and then we'll switch over and we'll work another hour, the last hour or whatever, on the realistic bear. That is totally fine. So as you start adding in some more of these midtones, you might find that I didn't get some of these darker values dark enough, so I'm going to go back over and touch those up again. This is like, what, layer 3, 4? And we'll just push those back. Dark values push back, light values pull forward. Yes, Mina, the nose has better texture. We're getting there, for sure. A little bit of blending, a little bit of texture. So I'm going to pull some of this shading at the very top down a little bit because it's like too big of a highlight. So we'll kind of thin this down. We'll pull that dark value down. And I think realism is all about fine-tuning. Once you get kind of your base information in there, like your darks and your values, a little bit of texture, then it comes down to just kind of fine-tuning. Take a look just back and forth, take a step back, see areas that you might need to fix. You guys might be like screaming at me, you know, fix this spot, fix that spot. I do that when I watch artists. I'm like, when are you going to get to that spot right there? So just, if you're working on a realistic piece, just keep going, fine tune, adjust, step back, take a break, stretch your legs, walk across the room. Look at it upside down is a great way to find areas that you maybe need to adjust. Look at it in the mirror. That's also another great way to find areas that need to be corrected or improved upon. Just doing some blending here. So I think that there is at some point for realism, like step 1, do this, step 2, do that. But keep in mind that those are just kind of great ways to get you started. But I think the very last step involves just analyzing and fine-tuning. That can be a little bit of a challenge. But I think the more that you do it and the more that you don't quit when it gets tough, the easier it will become. You'll trust the process more. You'll trust that, you know, I just got to keep working at it and it'll turn out okay. So any questions at this point? Vivian says, it's amazing to see how you take your time building the values, but at the same time you burn really fast. Thanks. Yeah, I've heard people say that I burn pretty quickly, but I do try to sneak up on it. I try to be careful because once you've burned it, you really, it's very difficult to correct it. So I am a little bit cautious. I burn faster now than I used to. I used to take a lot more time. And like with custom orders commissions, I am a lot slower than what you see here because everything has to be exact and precise and just as perfect as I can get it. So, but a lot of times these live ones, I don't know if I have, like, they're all in my closet. I think I've sold a couple of them, but I make them pretty fast, and I don't know. They could be better in my opinion. But my main goal is to teach you guys my process and all that and kind of go from there. Dennis, see you next week. Same time, same channel, same bear. Yes, good night, Dennis. I'm postponing the Q&As on Wednesday for the summer. I just have too much on my plate. So I will be back on the 16th, Friday the 16th. We'll keep doing our Friday weekly live streams. Rich, you can barely wait. You're on a roll tonight, aren't you, Rich? Full of one-liners and horror thoughts. All right. Terry says, is it me or do bears have smoother noses? I agree. I think the texture on bears' noses is much softer and more almost skin-like. It doesn't have, I think, that dotted texture that dogs do. Dogs have a very textured doggy nose, and it seems more dotted, whereas bears seem a little bit, I don't know, they are smoother, I think. Okay, so let's take a look here, guys. As far as where we're at, if my cord will work. Ooh, okay, there we are. Oh, don't do that. I'm gonna move me again so we can see the bears. I'll make me smaller. Whee! I am tiny. Okay. So guys, this is really fun. Now, the cool thing about burning this on a single piece of wood, we have options. I can erase that center line and we can put like Wood Burning University, home of the burning bears, and do something fun like that. I could even just cut this piece of wood into two and then I could have two different projects. Anyway, very cool. I have not done this before with two different projects on one piece of wood. It's a lot of fun. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Oh, Barbara, I don't know. Can you bear the excitement of waiting until next week? Yeah, Rich is contagious. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. Vivian, your dog's nose has much more of a texture too. Cool. Thanks, Mina. This was a lot of fun. The nose is fine. We'll get it all blended in and it'll all work out. I have faith. We'll keep the faith. Thanks, Barbara. Thanks, Terry. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Vivian. Good night, Mellow Yellow. Thanks, Angela. Yep, TH, home of the burning bears. I think that's pretty cool. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next Friday, the 16th. Same time, same place. Same bears. All right. Good night, guys. Take care.